Hi, my name's Eric, and I'll be reading you selections from the e-edition of today's Cape Cod Times, dated Monday, December 23rd, Christmas Eve of 2024. Across the Cape and Islands today, we'll start with the weather. Quite cold, very cold, with low clouds and then some sun. 29 degrees the expected high, 26 degrees the expected low in the overnight, with periods of wet snow later. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Christmas Eve, cloudy, a rain or snow shower, not quite as cold as today, high of 41, low of 31. On Christmas, Wednesday, a bit of snow and rain in the morning, maybe a white Christmas, high of 40, a low of 33 in the overnight. On Thursday, mostly cloudy with a high of 44 and a low of 33. And Friday, much the same, a high of 43, low of 35, mostly cloudy on Thursday and Friday. The sunrise today will happen at 7:06 a.m. It will set at 4:15 p.m. We'll have 9 hours and 9 minutes of daylight. Not very much of that. The moon will set at 11:50 a.m. Heading to the front of the paper, where the news and the lottery results are usually kept, and we read these lottery results because somebody asked for them. If there's something you would like read to people who are blind or print disabled, you can email us at info@audiblelocalledger.org or call us at 508-539-2030, and we'll consider reading it. And if you miss any of the information that we share in our readings, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org and click on the Listen tab and find a week's worth of our newspaper readings so you can catch up on anything that you might have missed. Also up there is a wide variety of periodicals and literature for your listening enjoyment. That stays up there in perpetuity. And our grocery guides are there for what's on sale at the grocery store. All free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org. For the latest lottery results, we go to masslottery.com because the Cape Cod Times goes to press too early to give you those, and if you ask for them, you certainly deserve the latest numbers. With the numbers game results for Sunday, December 22nd, in the midday drawing, the numbers were 5, 0, 7, 6. Yesterday's midday drawing numbers game results, 5, 0, 7, 6. Last night's evening drawing of the numbers game, 9, 6, 3, 4. Again, last night's evening drawing, 9, 6, 3, 4. Mass cash results for Sunday, December 22nd, 8, 17, 21, 28, and 35. And Lucky for Life rounds out our results for Sunday, December 22nd, with 4, 7, 37, 43, and 47, with 8, the bonus number. Good luck to all who play. Remember us if you win. Now, on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times, working on a new plan is the headline above the fold, if there was such a thing in a digital newspaper. Bourne Christmas tree shops could give way to a 40B housing project, by Denise Coffey. When the Sagamore Bridge is replaced with twin-span bridges, a 165-unit apartment complex might sit beside it on the east side of the Cape Cod Canal in Bourne. That's the latest project Greg Bilizikian, owner of the former Christmas tree shop's location just off Sandwich Road, is working on. Bilizikian received positive feedback from the Bourne Affordable Housing Trust on December 11th when he presented preliminary plans for the site. The Chapter 40B site plan calls for 4 four-story buildings that would house approximately 165 units. A wastewater treatment plant is proposed for the site. Bourne zoning regulations limit building height to 3 stories, so the project would need a variance. They didn't say no, but they didn't say yes, Bilizikian said in a December 19th telephone call. The property at 5 Cranberry Highway is notable for its thatched roof store and a windmill. The Christmas tree shop store on the property closed in 2023. Will a 4-story housing project be approved in Bourne? He asked for Sagamore Bridge elevations from the State Department of Transportation in a meeting with them on December 18th. Elevation information might change the way people perceive a 4-story development in that location, and Bilizikian also wants to know what the town might approve of before he spends too much money on the plans. Current plans call for access off Sandwich Road and Adams Street. Additional roadways would change access to the property, alleviating traffic in that area, Bilezikian said. The possibility of building a wastewater treatment plant that would be large enough for neighbors to tie into is being considered. It would lessen construction costs, be good for the environment, and might come in handy should he need the town to grant the project some flexibility, he said. Tulp Outdoor Living has a lease for the store for 4 years. That's about the time Bilezikian will need to get the proper permitting and put out bids for the project. A Bourne Housing Committee was receptive to the project, he said. That gave me confidence that I should move forward. State moves to ease housing deficiency. Consultant sought to conduct planning process and a master plan, by Michael Norton of the State House News Service. Hungry for housing production, public officials are eyeing the massive, mostly state-owned Joint Base Cape Cod, which includes part of the towns of Bourne, Falmouth, Mashpee, and Sandwich. The 22,000-acre base includes 7,000 acres in its southern reaches, known as the Cantonment area. Mass Development, the state's development finance agency, on Friday announced plans to find a consultant to conduct a 2-year planning process and master plan for that area, which is used for training support facilities such as simulators, hangars, and housing for military families that were managed by the U.S. Coast Guard. Our military installations are major economic drivers across Massachusetts, bringing jobs and investments into our state, Mass Development Board Chair and Economic Development Secretary Yvonne Howe said. In partnership with the Adjutant General and Joint Base Cape Cod, Mass Development will facilitate the development of a master plan that optimizes use of this critical state asset and paves the way for future housing development and job creation on the site. At a meeting in February, members of the Joint Base Cape Cod Military Civilian Community Council said that they want any housing built on available land at the base to prioritize members of the military and their families that are stationed there. The Cape's housing shortage spurred state and Massachusetts National Guard officials to propose building housing on the Upper Cape base. At that February meeting, Christopher Foe, Executive Director of Joint Base Cape Cod, was asked if the state could have the authority to change the criteria for who lives in the housing, assuming the project is state-funded. Foe said that everybody in this room needs to make sure that does not happen. We want this to benefit Cape Cod, the citizens of Cape Cod, and the military, he said at the time. I'm not going to lie, my priorities will always be the men and women who live and work on Joint Base Cape Cod. In the latest discussion, Mass Development said the master plan goals include supporting efforts toward ongoing military and support operations and facilitating housing production and economic development on already developed surplus properties that are served by transportation and utility infrastructure, including wastewater. National Guard Adjutant General Gary Keefe said that the base is the largest military training installation in New England. It's home to 5 military commands: the Mass Army National Guard, the Mass Air National Guard, Cape Cod Space Force Station, U.S. Coast Guard Air Station, Cape Cod, and U.S. Coast Guard Base, Cape Cod. The base's impact on the economy and on national defense will always be paramount to its relevancy, Keefe said. With future development in mind, I've asked Mass Development to look at opportunities for some of our surplus acreage usage, which would possibly allow a closer relationship with our community partners, and potentially provide space for Governor Healy's goal to secure more affordable housing while continuing to be compatible and supportive of the current and future military missions on Joint Base Cape Cod. A 2014 state law authorized Mass Development to receive surplus property at the Joint Base from the state, including former military leased parcels that are excess to their needs, according to Mass Development. Moving inside the paper, as we keep it local, the headline reads, Cape Cod Jewish Community Marks Hanukkah. Free Christmas dinner is served at Cape Cod Synagogue, by Gwen Friss. The first day of Hanukkah falls on Christmas this year, an overlap that's occurred only 4 times in the past century and won't happen again until 2035. Shabbat of Cape Cod's members usually mark the first night of the 8-day Festival of Lights by illuminating an oversized menorah at the Cape Cod Mall on Route 132 in Hyannis. But this year's plan is a little different. Because the mall is closed on Christmas, the menorah lighting will be at 4 p.m. on Sunday, December 29th at the mall, in the courtyard outside Macy's Women's Store, said Rabbi Yekusiel Alperowitz of the Chabad Jewish Center in Hyannis. We had a pre-Hanukkah dinner last Friday on the 13th at Cape Cod Synagogue in Hyannis, and there will be services on Friday the 27th for Hanukkah, said Wendy Lavenda Carroll, chair of the synagogue's Social Action Committee. On Christmas Day, Cape Cod Synagogue members will be doing what they've done every Christmas for 50 years, making dinner for their Christian neighbors. Doors open at 11 a.m., earlier with hot coffee if the weather's bad, at 145 Winter Street for a full-course turkey dinner. Volunteers are cooking 12 turkeys and all the fixings for an expected crowd of 100 to 150 people, Lavenda Carroll said. If there are leftovers, people can also take food home, she said. The annual event offers warmth and friendship to anyone in the community who may not have plans or family and friends to share the holiday with, according to a notice with the details. With donations and support from Cape Cod Synagogue congregants and friends of the synagogue, the Christmas event includes an opportunity to choose free used warm coats for both men and women, brand new socks, hats, gloves, and thermal wear. Also available will be like-new or gently used sweatpants, sweaters, and sweatshirts. Gift cards, snacks, and toiletries will also be provided to take home, reads the notice. We have a wonderful woman who's not a member of the synagogue who makes 150 bags of Christmas cookies for us each year, Lavenda Carroll said. New this year in nearby South Yarmouth, Roger and Bobby Gardner are hosting a free Christmas Day dinner from 2 to 5 p.m. at Howard Lodge, 20 Davis Road in South Yarmouth. You can just stop in and get a free meal, Bobby Gardner said. Reservations are required for this holiday meal, and they may be made through Tuesday by calling Bobby at 508-737-8987 or Roger at 508-737-7964. Bobby Gardner said the couple, who are retired and involved with other community service, decided to host a Christmas for strangers since they had the opportunity to eat with their own extended family just a few weeks ago on Thanksgiving. It's just him and me, just the two of us, Bobby Gardner said of Christmas Day dinner at the lodge. My husband does the cooking. Organizers of both free dinners said they also plan to drop off meals for police, firefighters, and emergency rescue personnel who are working on Christmas. Additionally, members of Falmouth Jewish Congregation will be handing out packaged dinners on Christmas Day for those who reserved them ahead. Unemployment claims in the state have decreased. Initial filings for unemployment benefits in Massachusetts dropped in the most recent figures compared with the week prior, the U.S. Department of Labor said Thursday. New jobless claims, which is a proxy for layoffs, fell to 8,757 in the week ending December 14th. That's down from 9,425 the week before, the Labor Department said. U.S. unemployment claims 220,000 last week on a seasonally adjusted basis. Delaware saw the largest percentage increase in weekly claims, with them jumping by 32.3%. Georgia, meanwhile, saw the largest percentage drop in new claims, with claims dropping by 50.6%. From the Cape and Islands section, What's Happening Now in Western North Carolina by Steve Heslip. Heading east out of the mountains of western North Carolina, lyrics from Greg Lake's I Believe in Father Christmas provided the soundtrack. They said there'll be snow at Christmas, they said there'll be peace on earth, but instead it just kept on raining. The weather, a steady drizzle accompanied by stray snowflakes, soaked a land still trying to dry out from Tropical Storm Helene in late September. I had been called back to the Asheville Citizen-Times to help their staff for a second time. The frantic pace of search and rescue had been replaced by motorcades of oversized dump trucks hauling away debris. The first day's assignments included a trip to a church housing aid station that was temporarily closed as it waited for more funding. A story about destroyed railroad infrastructure sent me to the town of Old Fort. The tracks winding into and around town look like a child's train set not fully assembled. They hung suspended in midair along Mill Creek, source of their destruction. Nearby neighbors stopped to show me where their houses used to be. Frost-covered pages from a photo album littered the ground as steam rose up from the frozen mud, mounded beside the track in the early morning light, a surreal landscape. The final day's assignment started with a long and winding drive up into the mountains to Chimney Rock. It gets its name from a landmark rock outcropping that looks down on the town fast beside the Rocky Broad River. Floodwaters from it carved a canyon through town, washing out a long section of Route 9. The neighboring town of Lake Lure hosted Bring Christmas to Chimney Rock, giving locals a chance to fundraise for the storm-ravaged community. The road into Chimney Rock has been closed off since the storm, with a police-guarded checkpoint to keep out sightseers. The big draw at the Christmas event, bus rides into the town, giving outsiders a first look at how bad the damage was. Just feet away from the river's new ravine, a Christmas tree decked out with ornaments, many made from storm debris, washed up flip-flops, a downspout, and even a mangled camera recovered in the aftermath. If you cast your gaze up over the big red star topping the tree, it perfectly framed the Chimney Rock outcropping, where an American flag stood at attention in a stiff wind. Looking up is indeed what residents of that small town are doing. A Christmas to remember. Also from the Cape and Islands section, what new laws are going into effect in Massachusetts in 2025? By Melina Khan of the USA Today Network. With 2025 around the corner, a new slate of laws is about to go into effect in Massachusetts. The state legislature, which is composed of the Senate and House of Representatives, proposes thousands of new bills each session. While they each move through the legislative process, only some reach the governor's desk and they're signed into law. Many laws go into effect January 1st for a standardized start date each year, while others are implemented in waves. In 2025, several major laws will go into effect in Massachusetts, both new and updated. Here's what to know from a transparency law around salaries to changes to the state's paid family and medical leave. The mass salary transparency laws are changing in 2025. One of the most major updates coming to Massachusetts in the new year has to do with salary and pay transparency. On July 31st, Governor Maura T. Healey enacted a pay transparency law that requires employers to disclose salary ranges and protects an employee's right to ask for salary ranges. The new law will be implemented throughout 2025. Beginning February 1st of 2025, employers with at least 100 employees will be required to file an annual report with the state that includes workforce demographic and pay data categorized by race, ethnicity, sex, and job categories. Unions, state and local governments, and school systems must submit the reports every other year. Beginning October 29th of 2025, employers with at least 25 employees must include a pay range with each new job posting and must disclose the pay range to employees who are offered a promotion or are transferred to a new position. The Mass Parentage Act to go into effect January 1st. The Massachusetts Parentage Act will update the state's laws to ensure that families are protected under law regardless of the parent's marital status, gender identity, or sexual orientation, or the circumstances of the child's birth. The law was signed by Healey in August, but will officially go into effect January 1st of 2025. The new law updates an existing statute to be gender inclusive and to add new provisions, including protections for children born through surrogacy or assisted reproduction. This updates the state's parentage laws for the first time in 40 years, according to a release from Healey's office. More information about the law can be found on the GLBTQ Legal Advocates and Defenders website. Also, changes coming to mass paid family and medical leave in 2025. Benefits under the Paid Family and Medical Leave Act, which is an existing law in Massachusetts, will be updated in the new year. The maximum weekly benefit under PFMI will increase to $1,170.64 in 2025. In 2024, the maximum weekly benefit is currently $1,149.90. The PFML is a program that allows Massachusetts workers to take paid time off for a serious health condition or to care for a family member with a serious health condition. It also applies to time spent bonding with a child after their birth. Keeping it local with the high school roundup, Martha's Vineyard boys hockey stays perfect by Adam Kirkjian. In a showdown between two undefeated boys hockey teams, only one stayed that way. Martha's Vineyard topped Monomoy Mashpee 5-0 on Saturday. The Vineyarders improved to 3-0. Monomoy Mashpee fell to 2-1. In other high school sports action in boys hockey, it was Falmouth 6, Franklin 5. Dennis Yarmouth, Cape Tech, Cape Cod Academy 5, Bridgewater Raynham 2. St. John Paul II 5, and Quincy 0. In girls hockey, it was Nauset Monomoy 9, Barnstable Upper Cape, Cape Tech 0. Dennis Yarmouth, Cape Cod Academy, St. John Paul II 3, Sandwich BMC 3. It was a tie. It was also LaSalle Academy 6 and Falmouth 1. In boys basketball, it was Nantucket 64, Martha's Vineyard 59. It was Dennis Yarmouth over New Mission 66-63 in overtime, and East Boston 52 beat Barnstable with 48. In wrestling, Whitman Hanson 66, Upper Cape 12, Keefe Tech 45, Upper Cape 24, Scituate 71, Upper Cape 9. There is one obituary in today's Cape Cod Times, dated today, Monday, December 23rd of 2024. It's of Dr. Dana C. Ricker of Buzzards Bay, a lifelong resident, who passed on December 20th. He was beloved husband of Karen Doherty Ricker. He was born in Wareham on January 1st, 1947, was a graduate of Bourne High School, class of 65, and of American International College in 1971. He earned his Doctor of Optometry from Pacific University in 1974. He served in the U.S. Air Force as a captain in Ramstein, Germany from 1974 to 1979, returning home to Loving Air Force Base for 1 year. Dr. Ricker was in private practice for 48 years, where he provided vision care to patients in the Hyannis, Middleborough, and Pecasset communities. He retired in May of 2022. He loved gardening, golf, travel, old movies, and his 1980 classic Corvette. He was known for his kindness and generosity. He's survived by his beloved wife Karen Doherty Ricker and many who will miss him dearly. Visiting hours will be held this Friday, December 27th, from 10:30 to 12:30 p.m. at Nickerson Bourne Funeral Home in Bourne. A service will follow at 12:30 in the funeral home. The burial will be private. Dr. Ricker, thank you for your service and sacrifice to the country. From the front page, Feds say CVS filled illegal scripts for opioids, by Mark Reynolds of the Providence Journal. CVS pharmacies across the country filled unlawful prescriptions for controlled substances, including orders for dangerous and excessive quantities of opioids, helping to fuel an epidemic of overdose deaths, according to a civil complaint brought by federal prosecutors and unsealed Friday in U.S. District Court in Providence. CVS Pharmacy, Inc., the country's largest pharmacy chain, is headquartered in Woonsocket, knowingly filled the prescriptions which lacked legitimate practice over a period of more than 10 years, federal prosecutors say. The complaint accuses CVS of filling large quantities of prescriptions written by prescribers who were known to be engaged in pill mill operations that were producing quantities of prescriptions that had no legitimate medical purpose. They weren't valid and weren't issued in the usual course of professional practice, prosecutors say. The company, they say, ignored information from its own pharmacists and internal data that indicated there was a problem. The suit says the outflow of dangerous drugs with no medical purpose was a consequence of corporate performance metrics, incentive compensation, and staffing policies that prioritized profits over patient safety. The company says prosecutors kept pharmacists from warning each other about certain prescribers. Its staffing levels were so low, pharmacists couldn't comply with their legal obligations and also meet performance metrics, prosecutors say. In some tragic cases, patients died after overdosing on opioids shortly after filling unlawful prescriptions at CVS. CVS disputes false narrative, quote-unquote, in complaint. A spokeswoman for CVS, Amy Thibault, said that the company strongly disagrees with the allegations and what she characterized as a false narrative within the complaint. We will defend ourselves vigorously against this misguided federal lawsuit, Thibault said in a statement. The complaint was unsealed Wednesday afternoon. Within an hour, U.S. Attorney Zachary A. Cunha was commenting on it, saying pharmacies have a legal obligation to check into the inherently suspicious situations that they confront. It is our allegation that CVS, as an organization, ignored repeated red flags, Cunha said. He cited the filling of Trinity scripts, calling for a particularly dangerous and excessive combination, an opioid, a benzodiazepine, and a muscle relaxant. The complaint says CVS violated the Federal False Claims Act by seeking reimbursement from federal health care programs for some of these unlawful prescriptions. Cunha stopped short of making any specific allegations against any particular individuals. Thibault said that the lawsuit intensifies a serious dilemma for pharmacists. They're simultaneously second-guessed for dispensing too many opioids and too few, she said. The prescriptions in question, she said, were written by practitioners who were licensed, authorized, and empowered by the government to write the orders for controlled substances. Cunha pushed back, seeking to dispute any notion of regulatory ambiguity. I don't think it could be more clear that a pharmacy has an obligation under the Controlled Substances Act, Cunha said, that the prescriptions that it lets go out the door are legitimate, particularly when there are particular red flags. These are not subtle red flags, they are overt. They are repeated, and they were repeatedly raised by CVS's own expert pharmacy staff. The legal action hopes to hold CVS accountable for its conduct and to ensure future compliance, Cunha said. We will close this half-hour reading of the Cape Cod Times of December 23rd with Mortgage Rates Continue Rising Despite the Fed's Cuts by Andrea Rakir of USA Today. For Jill Comfort, a broker who owns Comfort Realty in Maricopa, Arizona, 2024 has been a slow year. The majority of that has to do with interest rates, Comfort told USA Today. You've got a lot of people that are first-time buyers that are struggling to get into the market. High interest rates are just making their payments go way higher, and a lot of people are opting to wait. For buyers that are brave enough to dip their toes in the water, the market's been fickle. One of Comfort's clients received an estimate on a mortgage application before the Federal Reserve announced it would start cutting rates, and then rates started going back up. And now her payment is going to be more than when we originally started looking, she said. It's extremely frustrating. That experience isn't a fluke. On September 18th, when the Federal Reserve made its first cut of 2024, the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 6.09%. 3 months later, just after the central bank announced its third cut of the year last week, the federal funds rate is down a full percentage point. Mortgages, meanwhile, are up nearly that much. The 30-year fixed averaged 6.72% in the week ending December 19th, according to Freddie Mac data. So what's going on? The Federal Reserve controls the rates at which banks loan money to each other overnight. But mortgages have a much longer lifespan, and as a result, they most closely track 10-year U.S. Treasury notes, debt issued by the U.S. government and traded by investors in the bond market. Mortgage guarantor Fannie Mae recently highlighted investors' expectations for monetary and fiscal policy, economic growth, and inflation in an article laying out factors influencing rates for 10-year Treasury notes. If investors Expect inflation to be higher, for example. Investors will want higher yields so their investments don't lose value. It's also the case that when inflation goes higher, the risk that interest-paying investments will lose value makes their prices decline. Bond prices decline when yields rise, and vice versa. While mortgages go in the same direction as the bond market, there is still a big spread or difference between the two. On September 18th, when the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 6.09%, the 10-year Treasury averaged 4.1%. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the Cape Cod Times for today, December 23rd of 2024. This is your reader, Eric, wishing you happy holidays. Be kind to each other. Look after each other. Bye for now.